from the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
All right, here we are, folks. Welcome to the episode of today. Welcome to today's show. One, we're recording a little late. All right. We had a little audio issue. Again, we're working with a lot of new equipment here, and some of it I'm managing all on my own. And well, let's just say the audio quality wasn't that good, so I've decided to redo the episode, and which is what I'm doing right now, folks. So welcome to today's show. Packed one. We're talking about Marriott SHI, CISO, North Korea, and China, including Apple as well in that mix. So a lot to talk about on today's show. We're going to get right into that. CyberHubPodcast.com. Find all the latest content tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern. James McQuiggan and I will be killing it here live, wrapping up this week. We're going to be talking about ransomware tomorrow, and a lot of what's going on around ransomware and social engineering. So don't miss tomorrow's episode. Tune in, trivia, swag, all the good stuff as well. Let's grab our double espresso this morning. I've got Cafe Romano, a nice Italian coffee. Actually, really, really good. The espresso capsules, amazing if you're using an espresso machine. Get them on Amazon. Really good. I got the value pack of them, like all kinds of different coffees, and it's really good. I'm really enjoying them. Coffee cup cheers. Let's get into the Marriott breach. So looking at my LinkedIn feed last night before I was going to sleep, everyone's like, Marriott, third breach. Wow, this is why you should buy what I'm selling. Well, let's take it into proportions. Marriott did experience a breach. The breach only affected the Baltimore Airport Marriott. That's it. It's only it's 20 gigs worth of file. It's really around, I think victims is around 300 to 400 individuals that were affected by this breach. And this kind of feels like Capital One all over again, right? A big number, Marriott, a big name. It's a clickbait. Here's what you should know. This was a social engineering attack on that one specific Marriott. It appeared that the threat actors tried to move laterally and couldn't. Spoke to someone with knowledge of this situation last night. They were telling me the same thing. They tried to move laterally, couldn't. Marriott had good controls in place. It was isolated to just that one hotel, and the data they got access to is just there. So some of it is just credit card information, and that's the kind of stuff where you go, all right, why wasn't are you not PCI compliant? Why wasn't that data encrypted? Why do you have the full PAN? A good question to be asked there, but not as bad as people make it seem like it. FBI has been notified. People are definitely in tune with what's going on there. So keep in mind. Over the 4th of July weekend, SHI was hit by a malware attack. So SHI is a New Jersey-based IT product and services company. They claim to be the largest IT solution provider, $12.3 billion in revenue in 2021 with 5,000 employees across the US, UK, and the Netherlands. It also says they provide service to 15,000 different organizations. Over the 4th of July weekend, SHI was the target of a coordinated and professional malware attack. Their security and IT teams, the incident was swiftly identified. Measures were taken to minimize the impact. The website and everything still isn't functioning correctly. For the sake of SHI, the fact that they're an MSP and an MSSP and an IT provider, didn't want to really reach out to customers and whatnot. This is a very still fluid situation. FBI and CISO are both on stage there. They were trying to exfiltrate. There's no evidence that customer data was trying to get exfiltrated there. But if it's a malware attack, then they may be one of the targets of a large MSP to shut down in order to try to get a huge ransom. And again, that's part of the supply chain. Good for them to picking it up. It's over the 4th of July weekend where most people aren't paying attention. They were, and good for them. CISO is warning that North Korea Maui ransomware is targeting healthcare organizations. The alert that was released yesterday talks about a ransomware that's been using to disrupt services at multiple hospitals and clinics since May of last year. Some attacks are causing prolonged outages. The agencies say they believe North Korean state-sponsored actors will continue targeting healthcare organizations because they're likely to pay ransoms to avoid disruption in critical life and health. This, again, goes into the whole idea that they're trying to get into electronic health record services, diagnostic services, imaging services, internet services, according to the alert. The initial access vector for the actors is still unknown, but the agencies provided a list of actions healthcare organizations should take to protect themselves from this type of ransomware. So something to keep in mind. Again, targeting healthcare organizations is very, very common. Iran's been known to do this. China's been known to do this. Russia's been known to do this. So if you are in healthcare, you got to tighten ship and move along there. Apple's new lockdown mode is protecting iPhones, iPads, and all Apple products from spyware. Spyware like Pegasus, Devil's Tongue, Predator, and Hermit. Obviously, Apple has taken the stories around Pegasus and Hermit and all the other ones and going like, all right, we're going to do something along these lines. So what they've developed is something called the lockdown mode that'll be available in iOS 16 and macOS Ventura. It'll essentially harden the device defenses, strictly limit certain functionalities. It'll reduce the attack surface that could that potentially could be exploited by mercenary spyware. This includes blocking message attachments other than images, disabling link previews, rendering inoperative just-in-time JavaScript compilations, removing support for shared album and photos, and preventing incoming FaceTime calls from unknown numbers. Other restrictions cut off wired connections with a computer accessory when an iPhone is locked, and most importantly, prohibit configuring profiles, which has been abused to sideload apps onto Apple devices. There's been a huge part of this. It'll be under settings, privacy and security, and lockdown mode. The announcement is obviously something that Apple is definitely looking at. Google and Meta offer anagnostic software features known as Advanced Account Protection and Facebook Protect that are meant to secure accounts of individuals who are at an elevated risk of a targeted online attack. Be interested to see how this kind of works overall. Really interested in this. All right, so let's get to China. So two bells that are ringing around China. One is finally the FBI and MI5 have caught up to the whole thing that China is in the espionage business. The Chinese Communist Party is in the espionage business. They take advantage of Western organizations. They make you host data there. We've seen that with TikTok. Talked about TikTok yesterday with how China is actually accessing the U.S. side of TikTok. Their engineers are. They're pulling this data. This is coming from whistleblowers within TikTok, right? So when an internal employee says something like this and they sound the alarm, there's definite some stuff here that needs to be looked at. Well, China's in the espionage business, and finally law enforcement is catching up. They're saying it's time that we have this conversation. Where have you folks been? Welcome to the party. It's kind of dying down because we kind of lost hope of anyone trying to help us deal with this stuff. So FBI, MI5 are talking about national economic security, that China is a government that poses a long-term threat. They're trying to really change the globe around. They've got this 100-year plan. If you haven't read the 100-year plan, a great book on China's ambitions and Xi Jinping's and kind of the whole thing around Taiwan. And remember one thing, Taiwan produces 90% of most semiconductors in the world. Those are used in cars, iPhones, iPads, you name it. Those all come out of Taiwan. Beijing sees the one China policy as a political safe face that's part of the Chinese Communist Party propaganda. They're going to be looking at that as one aspect. The second aspect of this is going to be controlling the market there. And once you control that market, if you think Russia and Ukraine is bad, you don't know what the Chinese will do in Taiwan. And if we're going to really put preemptive controls and let China know this is a line you cannot cross, this is a line the international community stands firm. It's you put 20 of the strongest, you put the U.S. Navy with Australian, the British, the Indian, and so forth, and you just say, all right, let's go there. And then you got to get Russia on your side, and I'll tell you why you want to get Russia here. And this is where the Russia-Ukraine conflict is really starting to play. China is playing both sides against itself. They're kind of like Bazzini and The Godfather. They're kind of sending other mercenaries out to make all the noise, go to war, while they're kind of sitting back and really they're reaping all of these rewards, right? So now they're targeting Russian government and organizations in the telecom industry with their own espionage and trying to get information. They're deploying a remote access Trojan called Bisonol, and this one has always been attributed to Chinese hackers. It's been targeting Russia, Japan, South Korea, and other countries in Southeast Asia. So this latest campaign found that Microsoft Office documents and phishing email spoofing are USERT, the country's cybersecurity incident response center, as well as Russian government bodies regulating the telecom industry. The documents both exploit CV 2018-079 or 8, a remote execution vulnerability in Microsoft Office to install the embedded malware. In exploits like these, we're seeing a whole lot of stuff there. taking place, as well as compromising these cases that are vulnerable to simple attacks. And again, they're targeting Russia. Why are they targeting Russia? They're seeing Russia has a ton of rare earth minerals that China needs. They also have a ton of natural gas and oil that China needs for its own survival. Putin knows this, by the way. Putin does not trust the Chinese. They're dealing with the Chinese now because we've essentially forced them. But if we want to go back in history, and history tends to repeat itself, unfortunately, in World War II, it was only when Russia joined the fight, came from the East, the US and its allies came from the West, that we were able to defeat Nazis and fascists in Europe, right? So the same will apply here. Eventually, we need to give Russians a way out of the Ukraine, where we supplement the Ukrainians, we also supplement the Russians, and then we focus on the real threat. China is the real threat. They're empowering Iran as a rogue regime, and they're empowering North Korea as a rogue regime. They're taking advantage of corrupt governments in Africa and depleting and doing predatory lending to countries in Africa for the sole purpose of using those people and that land in those countries as a potential spot for China in order to secure its own ambitions and goals, folks. And these threats are getting more and more serious. The alarm's been sounded, but we've known about it for years. We've been talking about it on the show for quite some time. It's time that we start to look at this from a different approach. We've got to change the game. The governments are now picking up this piece. So that's it for our show today, folks. Please tune in tomorrow for a lot more. Until then, have a great rest of your day and stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.